Trump, who is reportedly scheduled to speak in Orlando, Florida next Sunday, his first public appearance since he left the White House. Sal Giangrasso, Fox News.
And in sports, the U.S. women's national team continued their sterling play Sunday with a win over Brazil in the She Believes Cup.
4 matches, 4 wins so far in 2021 for the U.S. women's national team. Sunday saw the women shut out Brazil 2-0 for their second victory in the She Believes Cup. Goals from Kristen Press in the 11th minute and Megan Rapinoe in the 88th accounted for the scoring as the U.S. took over the top spot in the standings in the Cup with 6 points thanks to wins over Canada and Brazil. The women have yet to allow a goal in 2021. Next up, a match with Argentina Wednesday night that can clinch the Cup for the U.S. Ryan Mayer, Fox News.
I'm Mary Corsetti, and this is Fox News.
The vaccine is officially here, and we aren't just talking about the COVID vaccine, but a financial vaccine at Bank Pacific. We may not be doctors, but we can help you with your financial health. Whether to take advantage of today's crazy low rates, or just a local bank that has your back. At Bank Pacific, we want to help make 2021 your best year yet. Because for 66 years, where others put branches, we place roots, and we're rooting for you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Listen to The Point. Any speaker, anytime. Check us out on your FM radio at 93.3, 104.3 HD3, thepoint.gu, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and tune in. And announcing radio.com. Download the app and hear The Point. Get the latest news, sports, entertainment, and more.
On demand.
Your phone is digital. Your life is digital. And we are too. 93.3, The Point.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Security Title, providing solutions for complex real estate transactions. Featuring the latest special at Mezcla, Manopua, baked barbecue pork buns, Chinese-style barbecue pork in buttery pastry, $30 for a dozen. Call 479-2652 or 2653 to place your order.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. The only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Boy, it feels good to be able to say that again, Jose.
And you did it very well.
I did went 2 whole days jonesing for the Second Amendment. I mumbled it under my breath more often than you can imagine over that 2-day break. But here we are back again at a full week of Tall Tales ahead of us. It doesn't get any better than that. So let's start off the fun by going straight to Zemi Ikotny. Well, there's a real breakthrough today. The Daily News editorial, of course, comes from somewhere else, but they're not bashing Donald Trump. Wonder of wonders. And here's what it says. Other nations recognize arts, culture, and design from video games to opera are major economic drivers. President Joe Biden has left one key cabinet post unfilled. It's a position that even conservative estimates suggest is responsible for almost 9 million jobs. 15% of monthly average earnings in the United States, and a higher percentage of U.S. gross domestic product than the entire agriculture sector. It's a position that speaks for millions of Americans who are among the hardest hit by the current economic crisis. Nearly 3 million jobs lost, according to a study last year from Brookings Institution. And it's a position that would serve a sector vital to our recovery, growth, and competitiveness. The vacant post is Secretary of Culture and Creative Industries. That's what we really need.
How many jobs did they say? 9 million?
9 million. In Biden's defense, the job does not exist, nor does the cabinet agency to support it. He should remedy this serious oversight in the way the U.S. government is structured. So this is classic leftist Democrat statism. We have something called arts and culture, painting, music, acting, Broadway, movies, on and on and on. 9 million jobs. Well, obviously, we need to have a cabinet department for that. Obviously, we need to have a secretary. The federal government has to be involved in this. And, of course, the reason it works so well is because it isn't. Because it's that miracle called free enterprise, markets. But the left would not be satisfied with that. They would like to have a Secretary of Culture and Creative Industries. And then once we had that secretary, the secretary could promulgate some rules and regulations. We could add several more feet to the Code of Federal Regulation as to what is acceptable culture and what is not acceptable culture. What kind of creativity we're going to subsidize, what kind of creativity we're going to tax. This is classic statism is brought to you by Democrats who are very well intended. We need to have a cabinet department to deal with, culture and creative industries.
They say they want to expose fascism, but they keep bringing us closer and closer to it.
Fascism is our middle name. Okay, now the Post hit the ball today, hit it pretty hard. Here's the Post editorial. No good explanation for legislators to have COVID as your Wuhan virus vaccine priority. There's no good explanation for adding just 15 individuals to the list of people with priority for the Wuhan virus vaccine. But that's what the government of Guam did by making local lawmakers eligible for the in-demand, potentially life-saving immunization. Well, you know why they put senators on the list, Jose?
Why did they?
They're senators. Everybody knows that senators are takilu, right? They're way up there. So if there's something good, senators get it first. If there's something bad, no, they don't need it. Recently, the Joint Information Center explained the decision by calling senators, quote, critical service workers in the legislative branch. Senators are critical service workers in the legislative branch. Wow. That's even better than being a senator. Sir, could you tell me, I thought you ran for office last November and you were elected. Aren't you a senator? No, not me. I'm a critical service worker in the legislative branch. Whoa, that's a lot better. And that will ensure continuity of government. Art St. Augustine, the director of public health and a member of the government committees that decides which professions and other designations deserve this vaccine, doubled down on the move, saying in a Friday media conference that the consideration was made based on ensuring continuity of the leadership of government. Where was he when the legislature went on that strike that was so long that it took Jim Moylan standing out in front of the building with a sign prompting them to come back to work? I don't think they were critical service workers then, and they weren't ensuring continuity of government. And then on the other hand, I look at it from this standpoint. By letting them have those shots, it would ensure continuity of government. And I have to ask, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Sometimes I think the less the legislature meets, the better off we all are. Editorial goes on to say, our senatorial staffers, many of whom seem more constituents in person than the senators they work for, not critical to the legislature? Is the continuity of government, which has already withstood one senator's Wuhan virus infection, that'd be Chris, In more peril, while Wuhan virus area risk score is less than 1.0, is there really a risk to the leadership of government when only 6 of 15 senators didn't qualify already based on age? When some of those 6 received vaccines based on other eligibility criteria, such as being a caregiver for parents or running a funeral home, I wonder who that would be. I think the P word comes into play here. Well, you know, how else can Art St. Augustine, the Director of Public Harassment and Secret Services, how else can he pander to the senators other than recognizing their very important role by putting them on the list? And more importantly, why should 15 people be prioritized over retail service workers who are coming in close contact with hundreds or thousands of customers every day? I go to Payless once in a while, you know, and there they are. It's the same folks up there, cashiers, etc. Yeah, but that's different. They're not senators. They're not really monocular.
Payless didn't introduce a Bill 11 either.
No. There is a strong desire to get vaccinated on Guam. It's shown by our status as 4th in the nation and increased allotments for these shots that Governor Leon Guerrero has been able to secure. The high demand for Wuhan virus vaccine on Guam is reflected through an announcement from JIC that postponed a second dose vaccination clinic due to limited supply for the remainder of the month. We have a limited supply of Wuhan virus vaccine due to the fact that we have to prioritize senators. It is also shown, based on track record of Vaccine and Antiviral Prioritization Policy Committee, which has expanded vaccine eligibility in just 2 months' time to include seniors as young as 55, teachers and other campus-based employees, school bus drivers, homeless residents. Can you be a homeless resident?
Something. It's called an oxymoron right there.
Are you a homeless resident, sir? Yes, I live on Marine Corps Drive in Upper Tumum. Oh, okay. Is it a nice residence? It's the only one I got. The VAPPC is scheduled to meet today. We hope its members will think about our community's desire to achieve herd immunity a few months from now and expand the vaccine priority. The people who work in grocery stores, pump gas at service stations, serve food in restaurants, and provide other customer-facing services in the private sector have waited far too long. The value of their service to our community and the risks they face every day should not be diminished based on the fact that they're outside of government employment. Of course. The value of their service to the community is only based on the fact that if you're inside the government of Guam, you count for something. If not, sorry. We hope the Vaccination Policy Committee will expand eligibility and that this time it will be for more than 15 people. Yeah, I think the Post did a good one today. Blue star for the Post. There we go.
I have kind of a radical perspective on this op-ed, if I may, just to run it by you.
Certainly.
You know, we're being pushed that the urgency of the vaccination is to vaccinate those who are vulnerable and who are in most need, and it was concerning. However, they vaccinate the people that have PPEs, sanitizers, ability to wash their hands. The hot spots should have been the ones, I think, ought to have been the ones to be vaccinated first, because they don't have any of that. So this is not about the vulnerable. No. This is about those who
It's about rank.
It's about rank.
Mm-hmm.
It really was.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the people who work the front lines in medical field aren't deserving of a vaccine. I just think if it really was about the vulnerable, the hot spots that did create the huge spikes in infection numbers ought to have been inoculated first.
Certainly. Yeah, but, you know, if senator is really high, it's really high. And I've made this remark before. A lot of people are in the legislature that really don't want to be senators. What they really want to be is princes or princesses. But unfortunately, we don't elect them, so senator is the best they could do until something better comes along. Okay, let's go to the card. So here's the notes for today. We start again with the contentious topic of who has the right to take the life of an unborn child. Today we're going. This didn't read very well. Today we're going to be enlightened. We have an enlightening sunshine response from the governor. Jack Haddock continues the CLTC tradition of not following the rules. Today we've got sunshine from Jack Haddock. We'll examine systemic discrimination against LGBTQ. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. And that item on the card, systemic discrimination, dealing with systemic discrimination against LGBTQ, that's on the card as systemic discrimination versus BJ and Josh, who are probably the most noticeable victims of this systemic discrimination. Laura Sauter continues as the champion of E. linguata and with an edifice complex. Now, okay, so let's just jump right in the middle of that card. And I start out with Bez versus O'Malley. Dr. Ellen Bez is a doctor, as you well know. Dr. Ellen Bez is a doctor. Boy, such clarity of expression, right?
She's also an Ellen.
Yeah. And we have a controversy that began with the ACLU and two Hawaii doctors, one named Kaneshiro and the other with an almost unpronounceable name. Let's see, I've got her name here somewhere. I'll try to pronounce it again.
Radu?
Yeah, Radu, that's it. Yeah, Radu and Kaneshiro. Yeah, are co-plaintiffs along with this ACLU in this lawsuit concerning mail order abortions on Guam. And Ellen Bez came forward and identified herself as a pro-abort by writing a letter to the editor. I'm having a hard time finding anything here today. The title of which is Guam Laws Impose Unreasonable Barriers to a Woman's Choice. So Ellen came and trotted out all of the old cliches dealing with abortion. It's a woman's right to choose, on and on and on and on. And that was met pretty promptly by a letter from Sharon O'Malley, who referenced a couple of letters from somebody else named Mia Jesus. And Mia had two soapboxes. She climbed on one soapbox to roundly criticize Senator Pito Terlahi for favoring cockfighting. And Mia was really quite firm in stating we shouldn't be cruel to animals and use animals for a regular. And then about a week later, she wrote back in favor of abortion. And this caused Sharon O'Malley to come out and say, so, yeah, we can't kill chickens, but it's okay to kill babies in the womb. Nicely done, Shannon. And then we have a Freedom of Information Act request, a Sunshine Law request was sent to the governor's office asking for certain information. And there is a story in the Post dealing with that. Looked like the impetus for the story may well have been Jane Flores, also known as Calamity Jane, who may have attempted to frame the issue by going to the Post. Maybe not. But here's what the Post article reads. Bureau of Women's Affairs Director Jane Flores on Wednesday said there's no connection between ADLOOP and the American Civil Liberties Union filing of a lawsuit seeking to restore access to legal and safe abortions on Guam. This sounds Jane Flores-ish, doesn't it? Yeah, it sounds like Calamity Jane. The nonprofit group, the Vigilance Committee, raised the allegation of a link between ADLOOP and ACLU when the group did not receive a response to its Sunshine Reform Act request from ADLOOP about the abortion lawsuit. It turns out the request for information got stuck in spam folders of the intended GovGuam officials. GovGuam missed the deadline to respond to their request. The group later issued a notice of violation addressed to Governor Leon Guerrero, accusing her and her administration of prompting the ACLU lawsuit. Flores said there's no truth to this. Neither the governor nor I requested or otherwise prompted the ACLU to initiate a lawsuit against government of Guam for any reason, including the claims underlying the current lawsuit related to telemedicine for the provision of reproductive health care in Guam, Flores said in response to the Daily Post questions Wednesday. So maybe Jane didn't initiate the story. The group sent its request for information on January 29, but still hadn't received a response by February 15. It asked for any and all correspondence between the governor, Josh Tenorio, Boaz Flores, or any of the office employees, the two doctors that, and the two doctors that ACL represents in the lawsuit. Quote, by choosing to ignore our Sunshine Act request, you allow us little to no room to believe that you and your Director of Bureau of Women's Affairs, Jane Flores, are the ones who prompted the ACLU to file a lawsuit claiming to restore access to abortion to women in Guam. It's a logical deduction. You send that FOIA, you don't get an answer back. Sort of not exactly spoliation of evidence, but it kind of lives in the same house. If you're not answering, obviously, you don't want the answer to be known. The Vigilance Project calls for compliance with open government law and the Sunshine Reform Act by public officials and government representatives, according to Weber. Weber is a weekly columnist for the Daily Post. Flores said the Vigilance Committee's request was routed to the spam folders of all intended recipients. Now, I don't think that's what Flores actually meant to say. The request was routed to the spam folders. Oh, here comes a request from the Vigilance Committee. What do we do with it? Route it to the spam folders.
Then she is correct.
Maybe that's what happened. You know, maybe instead of saying something like the emails found their way to the spam folders, that's not what she said. She said was routed to the spam folders of all intended recipients. For this reason, the recipients did not locate the FOIA until after the Vigilance Committee sent its purported notice of violation. Purported. You know, if you get a Sunshine Law request and it's day 5 and you haven't answered, you're in violation. There's no purport to it. ACLU filed a lawsuit on behalf of 2 Guam licensed doctors, Sandini Radu and Bliss Kaneshiro. Make a note of those 2 names. Tie a string around your finger for Sandini Radu and Bliss Kaneshiro. They are both board-certified obstetrician gynecologists based in Hawaii that no one on Guam had ever heard of before, I submit. The 2 doctors are challenging 2 local laws that the ACLU contends are blocking access to legal and safe abortions on Guam. Guam attorney Vanessa Williams as co-counsel in the lawsuit. The doctors would like to provide medical abortion via telemedicine to Guam patients. Abortion is legal on Guam. However, when Guam's only abortion provider left the island in 2018, there have been no physicians who are willing to perform abortions or willing to advertise that they perform abortions. Here's another name to remember, Ellen Bess. We'll come back to that in a minute. Flores and the governor had said they're working on finding an abortion doctor to serve Guam. The governor campaigned as an abortion rights candidate. In 2019, she was quoted in an Associated Press article that her administration is trying to recruit abortion doctors to come to Guam and establish clinics. Remember, we found that it wasn't in the local papers. We had to dig it out of an Associated Press story. Okay, so the Vigilance Committee circulated the FOIA material to quote the media. Let's take a short break and I'll come back to this FOIA material.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
You've heard of double mile credit card rewards? You can forget all about that. At First Hawaiian Bank, we're stepping it up. Not one, not two, not three, not even 4 times. You guessed it. First Hawaiian Bank is giving you 5 times the miles. Use your First Hawaiian Bank credit card and get rewarded 5 miles for every dollar spent with qualifying purchases at grocery stores. Plus 20,000 bonus miles. Learn more at any First Hawaiian Bank branch or go to FHB.com to apply today. First Hawaiian Bank, Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
So the Vigilance Committee circulated the FOIA materials to quote the media, and therefore I got it. I don't know. I guess I'm the media. I'm not a reporter. I'm a commentator. But the purpose of the Vigilance Committee is to make information available. So they're doing the right thing. So I have a letter dated February 18, addressed to Mr. Lee Weber, President of Vigilance Committee. Half a day, Mr. Weber. In response to your request for Freedom of Information Act dated January 29, in which you seek the following. 1, any and all correspondence between the governor's office, Lieutenant Governor Jane Flores, Bureau of Women's Affairs, or any employees of your office, any representative of the American Civil Liberties Union. 2, correspondence between the governor, etc., and employees of your office and Dr. Sandini Radu. 3, same thing in Dr. Bliss Kaneshiro. Please be advised we were only made aware of your request on Monday, February 15. You've only made aware. I guess if you're a government office, you need to check your spam folder every day, because the Sunshine Act requests are not to be treated as something like junk mail. So if that happens, it's your responsibility to find it. Please, pursuant to Sunshine Reform Act of 1999, please find enclosed documents as requested. The redactions in several emails are email addresses for private citizens who are otherwise identified by name in the emails. I'm not so sure that they have the ability to redact email addresses. I went through that with Fernando Esteves once before. And this is from Jean Titano, Special Assistant, Executive Management Office. Okay, here's the first letter. This is Jane Flores, also known as Calamity Jane. And the first letter she sends me is to Dr. Kaneshiro.
You don't say.
Now, isn't that an interesting coincidence? One of the plaintiffs in the abortion lawsuit. First letter. And there's a BCC, a blind courtesy copy, to Dr. Ellen Bez. Birds of a feather flock together. And there's another BCC to a certain Mariana Cook-Wen. That's the governor's daughter. So the letter goes to Dr. Kaneshiro. The email goes to Dr. Kaneshiro, one of the co-plaintiffs in the suit against the Attorney General and about 25 other folks, with a CC to the governor's daughter and a CC to Dr. Ellen Bez, the correspondent. And the email says, I am the director of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, and I am coordinating the effort to bring a doctor or doctors on a rotational basis to Guam willing to help our women and, unfortunately, some girls who have a choice to make. Now, if I were to read that, I would say, I'd write back and say, what, is this something out of Forrest Gump? Mama says that life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
I don't know if I want the vanilla covered, the chocolate stripe.
Yeah.
These are hard choices.
You have to make a choice. So the women and girls have a choice to make. Can you please give me a call at your earliest convenience? My numbers are below. Please give me a call. Now, the Sunshine Law, we know from judicial interpretation, reaches emails, WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, whatever else is out there. But, of course, a telephone call not leaving any record behind is not discoverable.
Is the record of that call was made discoverable?
Well, if that office makes a record, yeah. Yeah, so the very first letter here to Bliss Kaneshiro, please give me a call. Very interesting. And then the next email, this is Bliss Kaneshiro to Jane Flores. And it says, forgot to give you my cell phone. It's, and then a blank. And then it says, Bliss Kaneshiro, MD, MPH, which I think stands for miles per hour, and then FACOG. And Bliss is the director of Family Planning Fellowship and Family Planning Division, Department of Obstetrics, Gynecology, and Women's Health, University of Hawaii, John A. Burns School of Medicine. So she's an academic. Now, here's some really important information that she included in her letter. Her pronouns are she and her. Yeah, that's right there in the email. Her pronouns are. So when Dr. Bliss Kaneshiro calls, so say, wants to be on, talk to our international radio listening audience, make sure you remember that her pronouns are she and her.
Okay, can you spell that?
Okay, then I go to the next email. This is Bliss Kaneshiro to Nukatola, Deborah, Jane, and Jane Flores. Jane, I'm connecting you to Deb Nukatola. Sounds like some form of candy, doesn't it, Jose?
Never accept candy from strangers.
That's true. The medical director of the PP clinics in Hawaii. PP, I think, stands for Planned Parenthood. She is CC'd on this email and is aware of the lack of an abortion provider in Guam. Signed, Bliss. And her pronouns are still she and her. Next, we have an email from Deborah Nucatola to Bliss Kaneshiro, Jane Flores, Dayton Kavarn. And the email reads, "Hi, Jane. Nice to meet you virtually. I do believe you have been in contact with staff at our Patient Access Center. Our area service director, Dayton Kavarn, was planning to reach out to you by phone, of course. Yeah. I'm not sure if you've already spoken, but to close the loop, I'm CCing him on this email. And FYI, we've been discussing the need in Guam for several months now and are eager to speak with you to see how we might be able to meet the need." This is the Hawaii Director of Planned Parenthood, Deborah Nucola, MD. And this is important, Jose. Make a note of this. Her pronouns are she, her, and hers. You got that?
There's a third pronoun now.
Yeah. She, her, and hers. She is the medical director of Hawaii, Planned Parenthood of the Great Northwest and Hawaiian Islands, medical director Indiana and Kentucky. Planned Parenthood of Indiana, Kentucky. Well, that's a big job. That's a lot of territory. That's a lot of abortions. Next item is from Bliss Kaneshiro to Deborah and Calamity Jane. Jane, I'm connecting you to Deb Nucatola, the medical director of Planned Parenthood. As you were, I already read that one. I think I've got the response on the next page. Thank you. This is from Jane to Deb Nicola, Bliss Kaneshiro, Dayton Kavarn, and Anita Areola. And Dr. Ellen Bez, who seems to have a relatively important role in these things. Yeah, Dr. Ellen Bez, wasn't she the subject of someone's letter the other day to the paper?
That would be Tim Rohr.
I think Tim Rohr said, if you're so fired up about abortions, how come you ain't doing them?
That was on Jungle Watch, yeah.
Yeah, that was on Jungle Watch. That's a good question. Ellen, if you're so pro-abortion and you're not doing them yourself, is there a constitutional demand? Are you denying women good health? That's pretty amazing. Anyhow, Jane writes to Deborah and Dayton, thank you for reaching out to us here on Guam. Yes, we are in need of abortion services for women and unfortunately some preteens. We are also in great need of other service Planned Parenthood provides, free birth control, STD, HIV testing, HPV vaccines, cancer screening, family planning, etc. Yeah, everybody knows about that, right? We are currently trying to quietly survey clinics here. Clinics on Guam that would allow visiting physicians to perform surgical abortions. So they're quietly surveying clinics. They don't want anybody to know about it.
They didn't enlist the port.
Right.
They don't do quiet surveys.
No. So that's what they're to find some local practitioners here who would let the Hawaii guys come in and do abortions here. One would think that you wouldn't have to look any farther than the CC line of this email and find the name of Dr. Ellen Bez for that kind of duty. Another option, if PP wanted to open a clinic here, is that we do have a medical clinic that recently closed. Would there be a possibility that Planned Parenthood would be interested in leasing this space to set up its own clinic? No, not really. It's not enough demand, not enough big enough market here for it to be profitable. So Planned Parenthood's not interested. Jane goes on to say, I would describe the atmosphere on our island with its 165,000 population that is a majority Catholic as initially hostile toward the issue. However, over half of the voting public cast ballots in favor of our first female governor, Lourdes Leon Guerrero, in November 2018, despite her openly pro-choice stance. So there is hope. That's pretty amazing. Over half the people voted for the openly pro-abortion governor.
What does it mean when you're hopeful for abortions?
That's kind of hard to figure out, isn't it?
It's kind of icky.
Yeah. And then Jane goes on to say, remember, this is Nuka-Tola and Kaneshiro. Please let us know if you have suggestions or options for us. Options. Like having the ACLU bankroll a suit. We are grateful for your help and any advice you can give us. That's what Jane said. Now, Jane doesn't list her pronouns here. So I don't know if Jane is trying to go incognito or what. And we have an email from Jane to Bliss Kaneshiro. Thank you, Dr. Bliss. I really appreciate your reaching out to me. I just sent an email to Deborah and Dayton. Thank you for connecting us. I look forward to speaking with you at our meeting later this week. So Jane and Bliss Kaneshiro had a meeting during the week of June 25th. But Jane doesn't show her pronouns. And then another email. This is Jane to Dr. Rado and Dr. Bliss Kaneshiro. Half a day, Dr. Sandini and Bliss from UH and from John and Dr. John from from UOG. Dr. Sandini and Dr. Bliss, allow me to introduce through email Dr. John Rivera, Program Chair of the Public Administration Program at the University of Guam. His Master of Public Administration students often assist with research issues. I think his UOG program would be a great partner for your research project on abortion attitudes on Guam. This may help us develop our advertising campaign. I spoke briefly with Dr. Rivera about your intent to find a local partner for the project. His email is CC'd above. That's from Jane. So this is all really pretty interesting and just an awful lot of coincidence here. And then the last one is, this is Sandini Radu to John Rivera, CC, Jane Flores, Bliss Kaneshiro, and Mr. Jesse John Kanga. Isn't Jesse John Kanga the new executive director of the Ethics Committee?
Oh, very interesting.
Uh-huh. Mr. Jesse John Kanga.
Now I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're going to read this email.
Yeah, let me finish this email. Hi, Dr. Rivera. Thank you for your email. We have just submitted our proposal for this project. This is from Sandini now. We are very excited about it and will definitely be in touch with you once we know about the next step. Thanks, Sandini. Sandini doesn't tell us what her pronouns are. I guess she doesn't get it.
Oh, no, she does.
She does?
And I say that with confidence.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, pronouns. She, her, and hers. Yeah. I missed it. So, I'm sorry, Sandini. I wouldn't want to run the risk of mispronouncing you.
You guessed the right one, sir.
Yeah, she, her, and hers.
Now, the university is its own entity. What do they call it? It's a part of the government, but it's autonomous.
Yeah.
But is it subject to FOIA requests as well?
It certainly is, yeah.
And the date on there says February 17th, 2020. It is now February 22, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been no correspondence between?
Yeah, one would wonder, and I guess I would really be interested in finding out finding the email from Sandini to Rivera. So maybe the Vigilance Committee will follow up on some of these things. So so there we are. I've got our Fred on the line. I'll be with you in just a minute, our Fred. So the coincidences here are really striking. Let's take a short break, and we'll come back after the break. I'll finish this up, and I'll get on the line with our Fred.
Sunday brunch at Mezcla Bistro in Hagåtña is back, hotter than before.
Come and enjoy Mezcla's true taste of Guam.
At only $28.95, enjoy your Sunday with your friends and family with their free-flowing house mimosa or house draft beer from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Let Mezcla serve up your favorite local foods. Call them at 479-2652
or 479-2653 to book a reservation. Limited seating available.
Mezcla reminds everyone to be safe and stay sanitized. Sunday brunch at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Listen to The Point. Any speaker, anytime. Check us out on your FM radio at 93.3, 104.3 HD3, thepoint.gu, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and tune in. And announcing radio.com. Download the app and hear The Point. Get the latest news, sports, entertainment, and more.
On demand.
Your phone is digital. Your life is digital. And we are too. 93.3, The Point.
So the coincidences here are really pretty astounding. Two people that no one ever heard of, Radu and Kaneshiro, are corresponding with Calamity Jane about doing abortions here on Guam. They get Calamity Jane in touch with Planned Parenthood, which is the biggest abortion provider in the United States. Things go quiet for a while, and then all of a sudden, Radu and Kaneshiro are backed by the ACLU in a lawsuit against the Guam Medical Board and several others on the island here, challenging two Guam statutes that would interfere with Radu and Kaneshiro's doing telemedicine medical abortions from Honolulu. The coincidences are really striking. And as I go through the emails, it seems like maybe I'm reading something that's not there, but it seems that the preference is to do this by telephone rather than by email. And of course, you can't discover a telephone conversation with a sunshine law request. So I'll just leave this with the idea that I don't much believe in coincidences. Things usually happen for a reason. And I'm not going to go farther, but I'm not going to stop looking. And I hope the Vigilance Committee doesn't stop looking, because they're the ones that are able and have gotten to the bottom of a lot of these things that are going on around here. I got one more thing on this particular story. Did I lose our Fred?
I think the call dropped.
Oh, gosh, our Fred, I was just going to pick up the phone and talk to you and then come back to this after the break. But if you want to call in, we'll get you right after the halftime show. I wanted to add this to this story. This is a story from Civil Beat out of Honolulu. And the title is, Should Hawaii Nurses Be Allowed to Perform Abortions? Lawmakers are considering a bill that would expand access to abortions by expanding the pool of providers beyond physicians. The Hawaii legislature is considering a bill that would expand access to abortions by permitting advanced practice nurses to do the procedure in addition to physicians. House Bill 576, which was passed by the House Consumer Protection Committee Wednesday, would authorize advanced nurse practitioners to perform aspirations abortions, a procedure that involves suction to terminate an early pregnancy. If passed, Hawaii would join a dozen other states that permit certain licensed providers to perform early in-clinic abortions. California, Colorado, Illinois, Maine, Montana, New Hampshire, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, and Massachusetts. Whew. I was scared there for a minute.
The first 150 applicants get a black hood. No mention of Guam.
Under Hawaii, yeah. Well, I was, as I was reading through the list, I was thinking, God, Wisconsin, if it's there, it'll be last. But it wasn't there.
Only in Madison.
Yeah, which is not part of Wisconsin anyhow. Under Hawaii's current statute, only physicians are allowed to perform aspiration abortions. Advanced practice nurses are allowed to assist patients with medication abortions. RU 486, yeah. Does this have any bearing on what we're talking about here?
Kind of does.
Yeah, so maybe you could just call a nurse in Hawaii and get your RU 486 if all of these pieces fit together. The Hawaii Life Alliance, a local affiliate of the National Right to Life organization, opposed the measure in testimony, citing concerns about patient safety and a lack of structure to ensure parental permission for minors. The current limit on the types of providers who can provide aspiration abortions has been a major obstacle for Hawaii women to access them, said Dr. Renee Soon, the chair of Hawaii's section of the American College of OBGYN. So they don't have enough abortionists there, so they're looking to help out here on Guam, huh?
Sounds like they're setting up a back alley.
Really? Hawaii was the first state to codify a woman's right to abortion in 1970, but the number of freestanding clinics that offer abortion has dwindled since then to just 3, including 2 on Oahu and 1 in Maui that offers abortions 2 days per month. Independent clinics, not hospitals or physicians' offices, provide the overwhelming majority of abortions in the country and have done so since abortions were legalized. I wonder who runs these independent clinics. There's a big difference between having it legal and actually being able to access that care. And right now there's a significant portion of our state residents who aren't able to access that care, Soon said. Very few doctors on the Big Island do them, according to Soon, who is among the Oahu doctors who travel to neighbor island clinics. Women who live on Lanai, Molokai, Kauai, and Niihau must travel by plane to obtain an abortion. Isn't that unconstitutional? Limits on travel during Wuhan virus have made it more difficult. I've had patients concerned about quarantining and the requirements around that, and they wouldn't be able to afford not leaving their house for 2 weeks when they came back home. They never came over for that care. Janet Hochberg, the executive director of Hawaii Life Alliance, citing concerns about safety of the procedure if conducted by healthcare professionals other than physicians. Limiting it to doctors and osteopathic surgeons may put them at less risk for injury or serious complications, she told Civil Beat by email. An earlier draft of the bill had proposed adding physician assistants to the pool of providers able to perform aspiration abortions, but that provision was later eliminated. Another provision in the bill would allow for your neighborhood auto mechanic to perform the procedure and inform sources that it may be reinserted into the bill. A 6-year study conducted by the University of San Francisco found first trimester abortions had similarly safe outcomes, whether performed by trained nurse practitioners, physician assistants, certified midwives, or doctors. The baby was dead in every circumstance. All right, let's break. I had enough of this. I got a break for the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Clear negotiations. I'm Mary Corsetti, Fox News. Iran increases pressure on other countries who want to contain its nuclear program.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has reached a technical understanding with Tehran to continue monitoring its nuclear program for up to 3 months, but United Nations inspectors will have less access to nuclear facilities. Iran is already enriching and stockpiling uranium at levels far beyond those allowed under the 2015 nuclear deal with world powers. Former President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the accord in 2018, saying it needed to be renegotiated. After an emergency trip to Iran, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi says monitoring would continue in a satisfactory manner without offering specifics. The regime saying the IAEA would be prevented from accessing footage from their cameras at nuclear sites. Tom Rigotti, Fox News.
Also new tonight, federal aviation regulators are ordering United Airlines to inspect all of its Boeing 777s with the same type of engine that blew apart just after takeoff during a flight to Hawaii Saturday, dropping debris over Denver and forcing the pilot to make an emergency landing. Fox's Christina Coleman has more.
It's unclear what caused the right engine to malfunction. 10 crew members and 231 passengers were on board United's Flight 328 when this incident occurred. Passengers described hearing a loud bang. I mean, can you just imagine hearing and seeing all of this while you're flying somewhere? A frightening moment for passengers, for sure. On the ground, people in the small community of Broomfield, just north of Denver, watched the Boeing 777 soar through the sky with one engine on fire, dropping debris in several neighborhoods throughout that area. Debris fell on at least 2 houses, and people were in one of those homes at the time. The ring from the engine narrowly missed a house. Neighbors surveyed the big pieces of metal in some front yards. Miraculously, no one was hurt.
And United Airlines says it's temporarily removing those aircrafts from service. America is listening to Fox News.
Half a day. This is Alicia Bloss from Security Title, reminding you that your 2020 property taxes are now due and payable. You may not know that you can pay your taxes online at pay.guam.gov. All you have to do is follow these simple steps. Register, log in, get a PIN, and pay. If you purchased a property after March 2nd, 2020, you will likely not receive a tax bill in your name, but you will still owe the tax. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
The vaccine is officially here, and we aren't just talking about the COVID vaccine, but a financial vaccine at Bank Pacific. We may not be doctors, but we can help you with your financial health. Whether to take advantage of today's crazy low rates, or just a local bank that has your back. At Bank Pacific, we want to help make 2021 your best year yet. Because for 66 years, where others put branches, we place roots, and we're rooting for you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Talks of impeachment of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo are underway as the push for an investigation into the number of nursing home deaths in New York continue.
Impeachment talk is heating up. In fact, Ron Kim, the Democratic state assemblyman, told Fox News that on Monday there are several meetings planned and state lawmakers on both sides of the aisle want to talk impeachment. Now, this bipartisan outrage, which includes threats to strip Cuomo of his emergency pandemic powers, really surrounds a laundry list list of items here. Everything from that March 25th order to allow COVID patients back into nursing homes to delaying the release of nursing home data, undercounting nursing home deaths, giving these facilities and hospitals legal immunity, and also allegedly bullying and intimidating state lawmakers.
That's Fox's Aisha Hosni reporting. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden will mark the U.S. crossing 500,000 lives lost from COVID-19 with a moment of silence and candle lighting ceremony at the White House Monday, when the nation is expected to pass the grim milestone just over a year after the first confirmed U.S. death from the virus. Plus, the head of one of America's largest teachers unions says more should be done to prioritize teacher vaccinations as part of reopening schools.
Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, says her organization is not against restarting in-person education. She said on NBC's Meet the Press that what teachers want is the testing and measures that others have used.
If the NFL could figure out how to do this in terms of testing and the protocols, if schools are that important, let's do it. And my members want it. They just want to be safe.
Weingarten singles out cities such as Washington, D.C. and New York, and states like West Virginia and Ohio for putting teachers and school staff as priorities for vaccines.
That's Fox's Grinnell Scott reporting. I'm Mary Corsetti, and this is Fox News.
Chili's has the seafood you crave and the flavors you love this Lenten season. Indulge in delicious Lent-friendly soups, salads, appetizers, and entrees, like our loaded baked potato soup, quesadilla explosion salad, our savory Cajun shrimp pasta, or our mouth-watering grilled ancho salmon. Ask about our black bean burger options, like our tasty mushroom Swiss or old-timer with cheese. This is a limited-time offer, so hurry in and enjoy all the tasty Lent options this Lenten season. We're located on the second floor of Two Montians Plaza. At Chili's, savor the moment.
Listen to The Point. Any speaker, anytime. Check us out on your FM radio at 93.3, 104.3 HD3, thepoint.gu, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and tune in. And announcing radio.com. Download the app and hear The Point. Get the latest news, sports, entertainment, and more. On demand. Your phone is digital. Your life is digital. And we are too. 93.3, The Point.
When's the last time you looked at your homeowner's insurance?
We buy a homeowner's policy and never give it another thought until something happens. Life brings changes, and our coverage needs can change. The smart thing to do is get the answers and level up our insurance to make sure we're totally protected.
That's the Insurance Extra Point. Get out there and make something good happen today by calling Guahan Insurance Services at 475-1162 or visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center in Tamuning.
So here we go, second half, Tall Tales, another great show. Great halftime show. And next item on the card is Hattick versus the CLTC, Chamorro Land Trust Commission. I touched on this on Friday, where there was a meeting of the commission on Thursday, and a land agent named Lydia Talou came in and dropped the dime on Jack Hattick. And Lydia basically said that Jack was attempting to, what word did she use? Coerced. He attempted to coerce her to do something that she thought was wrong. And what she thought was wrong was something that everybody who follows the CLTC knows is wrong. And that is that almost everybody who's eligible signed up in 1995. So there's a long, long line of people waiting for Chamorro Land Trust leases. And the sign-up was done chronologically. So if I went in and signed in on the 1st of July of 1995, and my friend went in and signed in on the 1st of December 1996, I would be significantly ahead of my friend. And some people tried to game the system successfully by trading with people who were farther up the line. So under my scenario, I would have let my friend have my slot. Instead of December 1996, he would have moved up faster and gotten his lease sooner. Well, when the when the chunky stuff hit the fan at the CLTC, and there were some pretty good-sized chunks, the Attorney General said, no, that is impermissible, and anyone who attained a lease by swapping places in line, those leases are void ab initio. So I think everybody pretty much knew that. And then Lydia comes along and says that Jack Haddock attempted to coerce her into breaking that law because she did a report dealing with two people, a husband and wife. The husband was a year ahead of the wife. The husband was ineligible. So Haddock wanted to do this report, which would be a recommendation to the commission that the wife be able to take the husband's position in the line, move up. Now, just stopping parenthetically here, I think I speak for almost the entire world when I say nobody likes to see somebody cut a line, right? You're waiting to buy your tickets for the movie. There are 20 people in line, and some person comes whistling up and goes to the front of the line. No. I'm not in favor of capital punishment, but if I were, that would be a capital crime. So it's even worse when you're talking about something like one of these leases that lasts for 99 years, etc. So we took it apart on Friday. So the husband who's not eligible for the lease is supposed to give his position in line to his wife to attain that spot for an ineligible lease. And Lydia, to her credit, came to before the commission and said, he tried to do this, and I didn't want to do it. And she said, please don't understand me. Mr. Haddock has done a lot of good for the agency, but on this issue, I really did not like it. I felt he was asking me to violate the law. You know why she felt like he was asking her to violate the law, Jose?
Because she was.
Because she would have if she had done it. She goes on to say, that's against my moral code. We must follow the law. To go against it is what got us in the trouble we're in now. And you're still in trouble there, Chamorro Land Trust Commission. So that's the background to the story. So when this story broke, I sent a sunshine law to Jack Haddock. And to his credit, he didn't wait out the 4 days. I got an answer today.
It didn't get routed to the spam?
And it didn't. He didn't route it to the spam file for a couple months before he answered it, yeah. So I have the report. Now, later on in the story, we find this. After Telu voiced her concern, Toff said the goal isn't to shove through the AG's opinion. The goal is to find alternate remedies. The transfer of application rights was the method of getting from point A to point B, where we wanted to be with helping out the families. The tool is not available to us, so what we're doing is trying to analyze and see if there are alternate methods legal and available to the board. Haddock apologized to Telu and the commission, but said he did not force Telu to make any changes. He did admit, however, that he took the report submitted by Telu and added his recommendation. She did present me with her disagreement, but I also said that I think this is an option that should be presented to the commission. Stopping here. So this is what he's saying. It's kind of what Toft is saying, too. We know that we're not supposed to do that. But we thought if we filled out the papers and everything and turned it into the commission, maybe it would go. So if it goes, fine. If it doesn't go, no harm, no foul. No, that's not the way it works. In other words, Haddock was seeing if he could get away with it, is basically what was happening. And thanks to the perseverance of Lydia Tellu, no, he wasn't able to get away with it. She did present me with her disagreement, but I also said I think this is an option that should be presented to the commission. And if we're able to do it, then so be it. If not, we're not able to do it, and it looks like Attorney Toft has already opined that we're not able to do it, then at least we know. This is the executive director of the Land Trust Commission. You could ask this guy standing out here in the sidewalk if it's okay to swap lines at the Land Trust Commission, and he could tell you no. So then I got the report, and this is what it looks like, if you can see it. Okay, I wrote CLTC on the top of it. You can't see it very well, but there's no signature line on this report. There's no signature block at all.
Mm-hmm. It's been cut off, or they're just not there?
It's just not there. And it's not in the form of a memo. It's not to and from and subject, etc. It says, Chamorro Land Trust Commission Land Agent Staff Report. That's what it says on the top. Land Agent Staff Report. Original applicant, Hodges, Gerald Lee. Former lessee, Hodges, Katrina Bora. Now, when I see the name Bora connected with the Chamorro Land, well, I've seen that movie before, right? So, number one, complaint. Issue, A, request for transfer of application and application rights. B, request for issuance of a lease. So that's request for transfer of application. Facts, application date, January 5, 1996. Number, etc., priority 2, preoccupier. Lease, yes, dated May 18, 2017. Recorded July 3, 2017. Location, Barragata, etc. Chronology, August 9, 2016, request from Gerald Lee Hodges to transfer application rights to Katrina Bora Hodges' spouse. September 15, 2016, KB Hodges submitted a notarized application and supporting documents. November 16, 2016, request to change application type from residential to agriculture, approved by D.V. Camacho. December 16, 2016, agricultural interview conducted by land agent I.S. Duenas. December 2016, successor designation of Nathan Hodges, son, no supporting documents. May 18, 2017, KB Hodges signs lease for lot 521911 Barragata. So she got the lease. June 30, 2017, survey authorization. March 22, 2018, survey map. April 17, addendum regarding survey map authorized by MJB Bora. December 28, 2020, commission approved for change of application type from residential to agricultural. Approved to terminate the lease for lot 5219 and issue a right of entry for lot 5219 until such time as lease is issued. It's a little bit confusing. Public Law 2338, Section 5.8, transfer of application rights. An applicant may designate a relative qualified under the Act to include husband and wife, children, widows or widowers, etc., to succeed to the applicant's application rights upon the death of the applicant.
We have a problem. He's not dead yet.
Now, the next item here, B. Although the law is silent on the issue of the transfer of an application or application rights while living, if the law is silent, that means you can't do it. Mr. Hodges intended to transfer his application to his spouse, Mrs. Hodges, because he could not qualify in previous regulations, nor did he wish to maintain the application towards qualification in the new regulations. So he wanted to transfer it to his wife because he doesn't qualify. Mrs. Hodges submitted all qualifications documents prior to January 1, 2021, and she is qualified under 21 GCA Chapter 75. In other words, she's tomorrow. If the Commission approves of the transfer of application rights to Mrs. Hodges, she would be eligible for a lease under the original numerical designation date and time of Mr. Hodges. Recommendations. A, motion to approve the transfer of the application and application rights of Gerald Lee Hodges to Katrina Bora Hodges. This is the recommendation.
Based on nothing, huh?
Based on nothing. B, motion to award residential lease 5219-1-11, etc., to Katrina Bora Hodges with the following stipulations: that the term of the original lease be observed, any follow-on actions needed to be authorized. So, once again, the title of this paper, Chamorro Land Trust Commission Land Agent Staff Report. Now, Jack Haddock in the meeting said, "Oh, yeah, I didn't coerce her to change it, but I added some of my own stuff to this." So that's a blatant misrepresentation. You know, he's taking something that's labeled Land Agent Staff Report, and he puts his own recommendations in there after she tells him, "No, I won't do that because it's against the law." And how much hokier can you get? Mr. Hodges isn't even eligible. So Jack wants to transfer the slot of someone who's not eligible to somebody else. This all went on at the board meeting. Now, this is listed on the title as Haddock versus CLTC. This is your test, CLTC. If you put up with this, if you tolerate this, then we're right back where we started from. The rules, the law don't mean anything at all. We're right back to Michael Bora. You can do any damn thing you want to, and it's okay. This in a private business would be a career-ending event. So CLTC, we're going to be watching you very closely on this. This smells to high heaven. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Moving on next. Well, we got trouble right here in River City. Did you ever see the movie The Music Man, Jose?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, we got trouble right here in River City. Starts with P and it rhymes with tool. Yeah. LGBTQ leaders target systemic discrimination. Yeah, we can't have discrimination on our island. We've got to stomp it out. It doesn't matter who's being discriminated against. We just can't tolerate it.
Can we put an expiration date on that word systemic, please?
I think it's mandatory. If you're on the left, there's a rule that you must use systemic in every paragraph of whatever you write. Systemic racism.
Oh, okay, it's important then.
Yeah. If you don't use systemic racism, people won't pay any attention to what you're saying, right? Yeah. So I just got an invitation to speak at a Rotary Club, and they said I could talk about whatever I want to. So I've been kind of going over it in my mind. Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm going to talk today about systemic. Pardon me, Bob, systemic what? It doesn't matter. It is systemic. No matter what it is, it's wrong. It's systemic.
Maybe you can talk about systemic abortion.
Really. So systemic, if you look it up, you take the time to look up the word. Systemic is a derivative of the word system. So if something is systemic, it means that it's not an isolated event or an event caused with a single cause. Somewhere in the system, there is a flaw that causes the problem, right? There could be organic diseases or systemic disease. A systemic disease, you got a bad heart or a bad liver or hemorrhoids or something, something like that. Those would be systemic ailments, right? If you had something for dinner that you didn't agree with you and it caused you to throw up, that would not be systemic. All right. So systemic discrimination means that somewhere built into a system, some discrimination is part of that system. Now, you got to really be careful how you use these words, because discrimination, everybody thinks, all you got to do is say, hey, that's discrimination, and bells ring and, cannons go off, etc. If it's not invidious discrimination, it's a part of life. Every time I go out for breakfast, I discriminate. I go to one restaurant instead of another. If I were to invite someone to my birthday party, I discriminate. I invite people that I want to come, and I don't invite people that I don't want to come. That's discrimination. Now, if that word ever got out, I'd probably be sued, right? Because it's discrimination. So LGBTQ leaders target systemic criticism, discrimination. And here's how it goes. More LGBTQ candidates for public office and more local policy reforms will be sought through Equality Guam, a new LGBTQ advocacy group supported by the island's lieutenant governor and public auditor, as well as the Human Rights Campaign. Now, when you see this Human Rights Campaign, it's not the Southern Poverty Law Center, but it could be. One day it will be. Yeah, just run for cover. Now, it's interesting here that there's an advocacy group, and it's supported by the island's lieutenant governor and public auditor, who make no bones about the fact that they're homosexuals.
Did they beat the system?
I don't think they beat the system. I don't think the system gives a darn, to tell you the truth. BJ has been, has made no bones about being a homosexual ever since. He was elected to the legislature. He was a candidate for lieutenant governor at one time. He's been Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Now he's a public auditor. It's pretty hard to come along. Homosexuals just don't have a chance of getting elected to anything here on the island. And then we have our lieutenant governor, a source of great pride for us here out on our little Western Pacific island. We have the first homosexual lieutenant governor in the whole country. Does that mean that maybe there's less here than there is there? It certainly hasn't seemed to hold these two guys back. These two people back, right? The group held its first general membership meeting Saturday to elect part of its governing board and to receive updates from stateside leaders and advocates who are helping to advance fair treatment for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer Americans in both federal and local governments. Guest speakers included State House Representatives Leslie Herod. Now, there's a good biblical name.
I was like, wait, what do you mean? Herod.
A Democrat from Colorado, and Brian Sims, Democrat from Pennsylvania. Ruben Gonzalez, executive director of the Victory Institute, and Reggie Greer, White House director of priority placement and senior advisor on LGBTQ engagement in the White House on the president's staff. I don't know how he ever made it, fighting that discrimination. Quote, we need to be in elected offices so we can make sure we undo all of the harm and systemic, here it comes, systemic discrimination that's been placed on our family, our peoples for generations, said Herod, who identifies as a queer black woman. That's about as high as you could get. Queer black woman.
Untouchable.
Yeah. Quote, that's LGBTQ people. That's people of color. That's immigrants. People from different backgrounds. Anything other than the ruling class. To make sure we actually are able to have the same progressive and bright future as anyone else. So this is pretty transparent, isn't it? Anything other than the ruling class, straight, white, Christian, man, that's the enemy here. An example of a systemic discrimination against transgender residents, right, is the requirement to complete surgical procedures before the gender on one's birth certificate can be changed. Boy, what horrible discrimination. If I decided that I wanted to let my inner female come out, I should just be able to go to public health and say, change that M to an F there, right? Yeah. An example of systemic discrimination against transgender Guam residents is a requirement to complete surgical procedures. In other words, yeah, let's break for the seventh inning stretch here. I'm going to go to the toilet if I can figure out which one to go to.
These darn systemic breaks.
Yeah.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point. Sunday brunch at Mezcla Bistro in Hagåtña is back, hotter than before.
Come and enjoy Mezcla's true taste of Guam.
At only $28.95, enjoy your Sunday with your friends and family with their free-flowing house mimosa or house draft beer from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Let Mezcla serve up your favorite local foods. Call them at 479-2652
or 479-2653 to book a reservation. Limited seating available.
Mezcla reminds everyone to be safe and stay sanitized. Sunday brunch at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Okay, so here we are again. LGBTQ leaders target systemic discrimination. I'm going to read something I read before because I think it's so clearly on point. This is from that lady named Herod. What's her first name?
King.
Leslie Herod, quote, we need to be in elected offices so we can make sure we undo all of the harm and systemic discrimination that has been placed in our family, our peoples for generations, said Herod, who identifies as a queer black woman. That's LGBTQ people. That's people of color. That's immigrants. People from different backgrounds. Talk show hosts. Anything other than the ruling class. There you go. To make sure we are actually able to have the same progressive and bright future as anyone else. There's your equity, the same bright future as anyone else. An example of systemic discrimination against transgender Guam residents is the requirement to complete surgical procedures before the gender on one birth certificate can be changed. In other words, there has to be some surgery and some hormone therapy. Something has to be cut off or added on, or however they do those things. But I ought to send this, I guess, to Herod. Leslie, here's the rule. Your hair you may dye and makeup apply, but you cannot deny the X and the Y. No matter what a surgeon does to your plumbing, you're still going to be a man or a woman. But she sees this as horrible discrimination, that people can't change their birth certificates unless they've had the surgery. An unsuccessful attempt to update this law was authored by then Senator Fernando Esteves when he wasn't blocking traffic at the main gate of Anderson Air Force Base. Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio told the Daily Post that advocacy for trans people will be an active effort from Equality Guam, from this organization. One of the things that has been driving us in this organization is a realization that transgendered residents of Guam are at considerable economic disadvantage with employment. None of the strip clubs will touch transgender females with a 10-foot pole. There's lack of health care. Yeah. It's something that I personally care about. We'll talk about that and strategize about how we respond to this in the community. Now, this is not one of my comedy routines out there in our international radio listening audience. This is not something that I made up for laughs. This is an article that actually ran in the Post. Okay, I notice I got a couple of folks trapped in the green room trying to get out. Let's see, I've got R. Keith, I've got Frenchie, and looks like another Joe trying to get in. Yeah, another Joe. Okay, so I'm going to go with R. Keith, Frenchie, and another Joe. Right up until it's time to head for Churchill Downs. Good afternoon, R. Keith.
Good afternoon, gang. It occurred to me as I was listening to you that the author of this particular screed is assuming not people's gender, but assuming people's orientation. The person goes on to describe that LGBTQ, etc. folks have not achieved this, haven't done that. Well, how do they know? I mean, does this person know that every single person who either does not state outright that they are straight or doesn't say anything at all is automatically straight? I mean, unlike gender, sexual orientation or preference, whichever verb one wishes to use, is not exactly something that you stamp on your forehead. There are an awful lot of people whose what word am I looking for? Preferences, bedroom enjoyments, whatever have you. You'll never know. Frankly, because they don't want anyone to know. It's an awful lot of none of people's business.
But it shows... to make the assumption that because someone is not
outwardly straight or outwardly gay or outwardly whatever means nothing.
But see, R. Keith, the thing that you're forgetting about here is that now it's not only important to not be discriminated against, it's really important to be woke.
Ah, yes, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
so if you are a male, and however you go about doing it, you gussy yourself up so that 99% of the people you encounter would think you're a female, that would not be good enough. That would not be satisfactory to that transgender female. The transgender female would have to say, I'm a transgender. Otherwise, the only thing that the transgender would be recognized as would be a female, but not a woke transgender. And in the in the hierarchy, wokeism is everything.
That's true. You make a very good point, and I've forgotten about the militancy aspect and the virtue signaling. I stand corrected, sir.
Uh-huh. And there you go with Leslie Herod. You know, if she just laid out her rap, I wouldn't have thought much about it. But she identifies as a queer black woman, which is, you know, much more woke than just being a woman, right?
Well, and actually, taking what you said and running with it, her stating she is a queer black woman is actually more important than her being a queer black woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because she couldn't be woke if she didn't tell us that. And if you're not woke, who's going to pay any attention to you? You are irrelevant in this 21st century. Nice try.
Very good.
Nice try, R. Keith. But you know, you let logic get in the way of your thought process.
That'll teach me.
Yeah. Good talking to you again, R. Keith.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah. Wokeism is everything. Even Jim Moylan knew that, right, when he introduced his identity politics bill. Okay. So next we've got Frenchie coming up here. Got about 5 more minutes here till we head for Churchill Downs, Frenchie. Go for it.
All right. I'll try to go as fast as I can to go to Churchill's Downs. So, you know, this is something I've been watching for a long time because when I first moved to the United States, beside a few months in New York, I spent the first 25 years of my life in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I was kind of the ground zero of the LGBTQRSM QZ movement, which originally was just the LGB movement, and it was not a unified movement. But the main argument from gays and lesbians was the born that way versus choice, which a lot of Christians who were opposing that movement were saying, you know, it's a choice and you have to live by the consequences of your choice. And most gays and lesbians were saying, well, we don't have a choice. We were born that way. And therefore, you know, we don't want to live a lie. And this totally evolved and changed. Because actually many MDs and psychologists had, even if they didn't agree completely with that approach, they said that it was very much possible. So after the AIDS crisis, where you saw a lot of gay people died from that disease, you saw an increase of the political presence of lesbians. And lesbians were pissed for 2 things. Number one, they were not victims, like a lot of gay people that had died. And number 2, they wanted more power as part of the women's movement. And what happened is, like, this is when it really got politicized, and we started seeing transvestite, transgender, and trans everything. And then, of course, you had to put the queers, to put the young ones that didn't know what they wanted to do. But the argument that, they are being discriminated nowadays is ridiculous, because in the United States, most of Europe, there is basically, even legally, an acceptance of the fact that they are lesbians and gays. Now, there is definitely another issue with transgender, transsexuals, and all those things. And to argue that they do not have power, it's ridiculous. On Guam, how much higher can you go besides lieutenant governor, speaker of the Senate, or being the current auditor? Those are very powerful posts, right?
Exactly.
And historically, so where is the discrimination? The people of Guam have always been very accepting, even though they didn't agree with it. There is that historical view in many countries in the Pacific where there was a rationalization of people that didn't fit the mold, and you see it all over the Pacific, from Polynesia to Micronesia and everything. And so this so-called systemic discrimination is a bunch of baloney. When you look at everything, it's actually working against the original argument from lesbians and gays that they were born that way, which the medical community kind of agreed to. And so now this psychological approach of perpetual victim, and it's basically born that way versus choice. It's orientation versus preferences, right? And it's fighting to be left alone versus imposing on others a narrow point of view that other people that might agree to leave you alone do not agree you pushing on their children. So this is where we're going with this thing. And there's been, the Democratic Party pretending that they are the sole representative of gays and lesbians is ridiculous, because as we saw, Trump got almost 20% of that vote. So if everybody was queer, was voting Democrat, it's absolutely not true. It's an attempt to put the LGBTQRSM, whatever, be the new African Americans as having to vote Democrat all the time by being victims. But actually, by pushing those things, you see it in Africa and in Asia, there is already a backlash. And it could be detrimental on the long run for people that want to be left alone.
You got it, Frenchie. So folks are going to be talking about all the points you made all the way to Churchill Downs. So
okay,
you're right on target. Thanks a lot for calling.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Hey, big news! Now you can listen to The Point on radio.com. And radio.com gives you so much more. Local news stations give you what's going on in your community, yet national news from CBS, CNN, or Fox News Radio. Take a break with one of the hundreds of music, sports, and talk stations. Love podcasts? Radio.com has thousands of true crime, comedy, kids and family podcasts, and more. Listen anytime, anywhere. On your PC, smart speakers, and a variety of connected devices. Or download the Radio.com app now from the App Store or Google Play.
76 Circle K, the Subaki Tower, and Spa Ayalam bring you another staycation. We are celebrating Mom and all she does. Win a 2-night stay at the luxurious Subaki Tower, get pampered by Spa Ayalam, and enjoy a delicious lunch and dinner at Casa Oceano. All you have to do is purchase $35 or more in 76 fuel and enter to win a staycation fit for a mom. The more you gas, the more chances of winning. Visit 76circlekguam.com or any Circle K location for more information.
Well, here we are, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, the home stretch of Tall Tales. I got about 13 more minutes to go. I got another Joe waiting in the green room. I'm just finishing up here on systemic discrimination On the card, it was listed as systemic discrimination against B.J. Cruz and Josh Tenorio. Those poor guys, nobody ever gave them a decent break. You know, they never had a chance to make anything of themselves. It's just so unfair.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, it's just so unfair. And we have to be so thankful that Leslie Herod, who identifies as a black lesbian, was it? Or, let's see, a queer black woman. So good that Leslie Herod came out here to really help us get squared away on all of these things. We've got to stop this discrimination, and what we've got to do is really got to get the ruling class. That's the message she brought out. Now, I'm going to just stop and shift gears here for a second. I'm going to give a little advice. BJ and Josh and the other members of your group, you really screwed up. You really did. Keep doing this, and you will have problems. You don't have any now, but bringing some moron like Leslie Herod out here, who's so caught up in class warfare and obviously critical race theory, that she can't open her mouth without basically disrespecting you. With friends like that, you aren't going to need any enemies. Okay, let's see what another Joe wants to add to this conversation here. What do you got, another Joe?
Yeah, so I should bring out Rachel Delasar. She identified as African American woman, and unbeknownst to her husband, who was African American, she was actually white. I think that's the story. And she, like the movie Soul Man, but she's the female version.
Yeah,
that's what the story was. But so she was like she was in charge of the
NAACP, Spokane, Washington. Yep.
Anyway, yeah, they should bring her. So it should bring her out to speak somewhere. But anyway, the reason I called was just bring up so many interesting issues. When I was a kid, there was a teacher in school that the issue was evolution versus creation, and so it was problematic because I kind of complained to the nuns and the priests, hey, what's going on? What can we do about this teacher that's telling us that there's no God? And so there's not. They basically said, well, just be respectful to them. You're the teacher, but you don't have to believe them. But I was it's a slippery slope. What it is they're, in this case with sexuality, they're bringing the bedroom into our children's classroom and expecting that the parents have nothing to say about it. So they're basically infringing on parental rights. And slippery slope, we're already slipping and sliding around. So I would say we've been on that slippery slope for a while now. But, so I think people have to expect we're going to address the issue. Back to the reason I called, I was curious, Bob. I know that the Toronto Land Trust is not in any way, shape, or form under the Bureau of Indian Affairs. But I'm just curious if there was a conversation within any tribe on any reservation under the Bureau of Indian Affairs, recognized tribe, and they in any way made a reference to an ethnic identity, would that be kind of I don't know, would that be kind of anywhere near racist or communist?
I don't understand the question, another Joe.
I'd be confused in that conversation on a reservation, a Native American reservation, regarding their ethnicity. Would it be something that's borderline tolerable?
Well, Indians on Indian reservations are sovereign. It's as though they have their own country. So it's a political determination as much as an ethnic determination. And I've read this section of the Constitution so many times that I would have thought that everybody has memorized it by now. but it's Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, Paragraph 3. The Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. So at the time of the Constitution, Indian tribes were recognized as independent, as sovereigns. Subordinate sovereigns, but sovereign nonetheless. So they can kind of do whatever they want to with respect to what they call themselves and what they talk about. Okay, another Joe?
Thank you so much for reminding us, Uncle Bob. And I would suggest to the Chamorro Trust, seek an act of Congress, or else you're going to keep getting yourself in trouble, Chamorro Trust.
Well, supervise your personnel or you're going to get in a heap of trouble, like I just said.
Thanks for your time, Uncle Bob. Appreciate it.
Okay, another Joe. And let's see, I got our Fred on one, right? And let me check and see who I got on line 2 here. I got drive Jack or drive through Jack. Okay, we'll take our Fred first and wind up in the McDonald's drive-through with drive-through Jack. Good afternoon, our Fred.
Judge, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm going to make it quick. 2 points we talked about today, so that drive-through Jack can get on. First, I thought me and you, we already passed a law last week on abortion, that it's murder and it's unlawful to abort a baby. We discussed that, right?
I think
rape,
so, yeah.
Incest,
Rape,
incest, and whatever other reason you have that you got pregnant. Tough. You got to tough it out, bear the baby, give birth, and put it up for adoption if you need to. I thought we passed a law on that, so I don't know why.
The law of tall tales, yeah.
I don't know why. No, we passed the law worldwide, didn't we?
If we didn't, we should have, our Fred.
Yeah, so if you can appropriate the law for that. Because, the other thing that comes to mind is that, if there, for some reason, due to rape or incest or any other reason, a female has had intercourse and thinks that she might get pregnant, then there's always that pill, the Plan B, I think it's called, or pill, the day after pill you can take to make sure you don't get pregnant. So there's no reason to have a fetus develop, a heartbeat and all that happen, and then murder the fetus at whatever weeks the heartbeat develops. So there is a pill that I think is a 72-hour window you have to take that pill, and the female won't get pregnant. That will prevent abortion from this all talk about abortion. Right?
Well,
do you agree?
Maybe. There's some debate about how that pill actually functions, and there's some discussion about when life actually begins.
Okay.
And one theory on when life begins is when you have a zygote, when the sperm enters the egg. That's conception, and that's the beginning of life.
But there's no heartbeat, and it's still at a very molecular level where it's just a bunch of liquid together. There's no heartbeat. There's no fetus. So it's a day after pill a person can take. And I think we're logically speaking, it's not a fetus yet. It's just some liquid that's bound together, an egg and a sperm, and that's about it. And I think that's a very good solution to aborting. You can take the day after pill. Okay, now my second point I want to make is this LGBTQ thing. Simple answer. India has passed a law where all LGBTQ individuals are treated equally. So they have a place to go to now, India. That's all. If they got issues here, go to India.
Wow. Fred is so accommodating. Thanks, our Fred.
Yeah. All right, boss. Okay.
Our Fred is so accommodating, isn't he?
I didn't know what to do there.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see. Let's find out what's going on at the drive-thru down at McDonald's. Yeah, there's your theme song, Drive-Thru Jack. Come and get your chow.
The theme song. Can't go on with any of the horns playing on a military base. But anyways, I have I've been listening about the abortion issue and the land trust issue, and My disillusion with the land trust, I got to tell you, you could correct me, it dated back to when Angel Santos ran for office, and he promised, and it's like many people do when they try to get in the office, not to ever sell Chamorro Land Trust. And if I recall, it was your colleague, Judy Guthers, that applied to purchase Chamorro Land Trust. And I think the legislature, it was introduced in a legislative bill, and that land got purchased, that Chamorro Land Trust land got purchased that was adjacent to her land for the purpose of beautification. That's what the bill said. So that's where my disillusion first started. It started way back then. And when Angel was asked, when Senator Santos was asked by the papers and the media, why did he go back on his word? And he gave an honest answer. He said, if I wanted any of my bills to pass, I had to acquiescent to this one. And so that's politics right there.
I guess Drive-Through Jack, I don't remember that, but it's interesting. I'd like to see some documentation on that. If you could round it up, you can give it to me en masse.
All right, Bob.
Talking to you, Drive-Through Jack. Okay, we wind up, as happens so often with Drive-Through Jack, getting his his supper at McDonald's. So we'll be back tomorrow with more Tall Tales. See you then.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The FAA orders an inspection. I'm Mary Corsetti, Fox News. As Boeing calls for the grounding of its 777 jetliners Sunday.
The aerospace company recommending all 128 planes to be grounded until the FAA determines the best way to inspect the engines. This comes after engine failure on a United Airlines Boeing 777 over Colorado this weekend, forcing an emergency landing at Denver International. No one was hurt. United has grounded all its 777s outfitted with that particular Pratt & Whitney engine. The National Transportation Safety Board is looking at the engine and plane, as well as video taken by passengers. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
Meanwhile, Senate hearings begin Monday for President Joe Biden's pick for Attorney General Judge Merrick Garland. Biden is trying to restore the Justice Department's reputation as an independent body and is also looking for an Attorney General who will manage the tax investigation of his son Hunter, as well as the fallout from the Capitol riot. Plus, the temperature is warming up and Texas is recovering after a major winter storm left millions without power or water for several days.
That lack of safe drinking water for some 14 million Texans, roughly half of the state's population, is forcing a lot of people to come to water distribution sites, and more help is on the way. Some 9 more million bottles of water and some 5 million military MREs, meals ready to eat, are on their way to be given out for those who have no food or water. As the state does begin to thaw out and power is restored, reports now surfacing of people getting slapped with outrageous power bills in the thousands of dollars. The governor's office is investigating. Deliveries are now out, at least reaching stores, replenishing supplies, because even the basics have been difficult to come by.
That's Fox's Casey Stiegel reporting. America is listening to Fox News.